Watch yourself, watch yourself. What? I don't know. Everything.
Grandfather, how are you doing? I survive. What?
It would be very useful if you turn off the cell phones, please, so that they would not ring and interrupt the press conference. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Welcome to the media conference at the end of the 30th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, held here at Guyana in Grenada, to bring the Caribbean public and wider audiences up to date on what took place over the last 3 days. Through you, the media, we have the chairman of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, the Prime Minister of Grenada, His Excellency, the President of Guyana, Brigadier Retired David Granger, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, the Foreign Minister of Haiti, His Excellency Antoine Rodrigue, and the Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, Ambassador Irwin Laurent. Prime Minister Mitchell will open the meeting with a statement.
Thank you, Brother Chairman, my colleagues, sisters and brothers of the press. I see a couple members of the diplomatic community here. Good afternoon, everybody. I would read the notes from the conclusion of important highlights of the conference. And I will then read a statement that we had on the Venezuela situation at the end of the first session of my peace presentation. Friends, we have completed a very successful 2 days with decisions which will have short, medium, and long-term benefits to the people of the community. We did not think that we would have had such a successful conference when we saw the the extent of the agenda items before us and some of the contentious issues that were before us. But in particular, we approved an implementation plan for the outstanding measures with respect to the CARICOM single market and economy, after identifying roadblocks which have hindered our progress. We examined ways to address the lag in economic growth and had some ideas presented to us by the Caribbean Development Bank and the World Bank. There are avenues open up for us as small states in various funds at a multilateral level, and we are determined to do the work to be able to access them. In that sense, we just want to re-emphasize the fact that we are, CARICOM is now chairman of the small states, and as you know, there are serious resources available if we do what we have to do to access those resources. We see tourism as a major factor in the thrust towards engendering growth, and in receiving a presentation on the sector, we recognize the opportunities which the recommended strategies to address both immediate and long-term initiatives aimed at stimulating that growth it presented. We supported in principle the creation of an independent public-private sector governing body to guide the development and management of a sustained regional tourism marketing and public relations effort. We also agreed to build our tourism effort. Air transportation, we noted, has to also be improved. We agreed to implement measures to facilitate the ease of travel in the region and mandated the government-owned airlines to continue to work towards increasing the level of collaboration and coordination. We agreed also that the establishment of a single airspace should be pursued, and we mandated the Secretariat to work with COSAS and relevant agencies to define a roadmap and identify the necessary resources for its implementation. We further agreed to address the issue of multi-layered regime of aviation taxes within the context of appropriate mechanism for the financing of civil aviation-related activities, and requested the Caribbean Development Bank to finance a study on the impact of aviation taxes on economies of member states. We have also approved a Human Resource Development 2030 strategy, along with an action plan which was designed by a commission which we had established in 2015. The strategy would allow our people, as they progress from our earliest years to senior adulthood, to reach their full potential in their personal and working lives, contributing to their families, communities, and national and regional developments. At the heart of the strategy is the prioritization of the construction by 2030 of a globally competitive, innovative, and seamlessly integrated education system to drive inclusive, sustainable development in our region. The strategy would support and guide critical transformation in HRD sectors regionally and align them more closely with the expectation, the needs, and the imperatives of the development of the 21st century. It is 10 years, my friends, since the historic Port-of-Spain Declaration says, united to stop the epidemic of chronic non-communicable diseases, which was issued following the seminal CARICOM Heads of Government NCD Summit in 2007. We are aware that we have fallen behind in the battle against these deadly diseases and also in fulfilling the goals of the declaration. One of the most alarming signs is the high incidence of childhood obesity, a major risk factor for NCDs, and this is a troubling statistics in our region, probably throughout every country in the Caribbean region at this time. We have issued a statement reiterating our determination to curb the ravages of these diseases through legislation and intensified public education activities. We simply cannot afford to continue the lifestyle and food consumption patterns which are literally killing us. I am delighted to share that heads of government approved the work plan also for CARICOM's single ICT space at this meeting. As my remarks at the opening ceremonies indicated, we are conscious that the region's youth and diaspora are paying keen attention to this area and the region's approach to ICT as an input to the future. Another big win for this meeting was the endorsement of the approval of the regional plan for statistics. We believe that the region's strategy for development of statistics will embody a huge basket of activities and will respond to the statistical needs of the CARICOM region development agenda and support our research and policy imperatives. The region's strategy for statistics will be funded by Paris 21, and to date the assessment has been completed. There is a general agreement that we'll need to engage aggressively and strategically with our developmental partners for supporting a wide range of issues so as to future-proof our region. This will be coordinated and spearheaded by the CARICOM Secretariat. Colleagues, I now read the statement that we concluded on as far as the Venezuela situation is concerned. CARICOM heads of government meeting in conference in Grenada on the 4th to 6th of July 2017 discussed the serious challenges facing Venezuela and its people. They reaffirmed the guiding principles of adherence to the rule of law, respect for human rights and democracy, as well as for the fundamental principles of non-intervention and non-interference in the internal affairs of states. Concerned with the difficult political, economic, and social situation in Venezuela, in particular the increase in violence and the polarization between the government and the opposition, and its effect on the people of Venezuela, and recognizing the urgent need to find a solution to the present situation, and that this had to be sought internally, CARICOM heads of government called for all parties to commit to engage in a renewed dialogue and negotiation leading to a comprehensive political agreement with established timetables, concrete actions, and guarantees to ensure its implementation for the well-being of the Venezuelan nation. In this regard, CARICOM heads of government offered their good offices to facilitate this dialogue. CARICOM heads of government mandated the chairman of conference to communicate with the parties concerned in Venezuela about this offer, unquote. This concludes, colleagues, the statement of Venezuela. This concludes my opening statement to this press conference.
Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. I understand that Prime Minister Holness may wish to make a few remarks at this time. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. First, let me say that this was a very meaningful and worthwhile meeting. I'm sure all the heads agree. Prime Minister Mitchell and his team, and indeed the Grenadian people, can be very proud of the efficient and hospitable hosting of this event. Jamaica thought it beneficial and relevant to our interest in ratifying and signing on to the agreement to establish CICRE. This is a Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. We took the opportunity as well to restate our position on the urgency for the full implementation of the CSME. We believe that the CSME is the true expression of Caribbean integration, especially on the economic front, and this is how our citizens would be able to truly identify with this regional process. Certainly as it relates to the implementation of the process of skilled workers being able to move freely in the region, we encourage our brothers and sisters in CARICOM to move speedily to have this implemented. We discussed the Brexit situation and the possible impact it will have on the region, particularly as it relates to the issue of grants to the region and trade to the region. We take the position that we should continue with the CARICOM arrangement, as that would be the most efficient way of ensuring that there is no fallout from the United Kingdom leaving Europe. We also examined the non-communicable diseases, which is affecting all our countries significantly. And Jamaica reiterated its support for the various efforts that are being taken in the region, particularly as it relates to the smoking and sugars, the consumption of sweetened drinks. We discussed the issue of using fiscal measures, taxation, and to consider seriously the application of taxation on sweetened drinks. I took the opportunity, though it was not on the agenda, to raise the issue of crime and violence, which is affecting almost all countries in this region. Jamaica in particular, as an issue which we have to address and grapple with in a serious way. I raise the issue from the perspective of not just a security issue, but from a macro-social perspective, that the use of violence as a means of resolving conflict, as a means of social control, as part of our social transactions, that it is becoming almost a feature of our societies. And governments have to take a proactive role in addressing this issue. So I've asked CARICOM to place this on the agenda for our next meeting, and heads have agreed. And so this will become an agenda item. And I believe that this will start a process within CARICOM to address the issue of violence, and in particular violence that ends up in crime.
Thank you, Prime Minister. And now I invite His Excellency, President Angel of Guyana, to make a few.
Thank you. This conference marked my demitting office as chair of the conference and passing the gavel to Prime Minister Mitchell of Grenada. And I would like to start by congratulating him on the conduct of this conference, which was very efficient, and we'd like to thank Grenada for its hospitality. We had a formidable agenda, and Prime Minister Mitchell was able to guide us through very smoothly. In terms of Guyana's interest in the conference, I would like to endorse Prime Minister Holness's concern about the progress of CSME. I feel that we've made measurable progress over the last couple of days. I pointed out in my remarks on the opening day that the Caribbean countries, although they may be regarded as small states, have a combined land space which is greater than Sweden, over 462,000 square kilometers. We therefore could aim at food security as being an important element in our single market and economy. We've been able to make progress in terms of creating a single domestic space. 10 years ago, as you know, in Cricket World Cup, we made a significant step forward in creating that single domestic space, and we're on the road again. Secondly, we're moving towards creating a single airspace. And third, we're moving towards creating a single ICT space. So these are significant landmarks in creating unity, movement towards the single market and economy. In terms of our cohesion, I would say that the steps forward in the field of tourism are also significant. The Caribbean has a world-class tourist product when you combine the insular Caribbean, the sun, sand, beaches, the sea of the island states with the ecotourism of the three mainland states, Guyana, Suriname, and Belize. So when we look at it together, you find that there is hardly an economic grouping in the world which combines so many varieties of tourism products. Guyana, of course, is the only Caribbean state with a land border with Venezuela, and we are obviously quite concerned with the situation in that country. We're very happy, therefore, that the conference took a principled position on the situation. We're not panicking. We are interested in a peaceful outcome to the troubles in Venezuela. And we will continue to work as a community, we will continue to work within the framework of the OAS to ensure that everything possible is done by other states in this hemisphere to ensure that there's a peaceful outcome, one that satisfies the people of Venezuela, and of course, one that keeps the region as a zone of peace. At the outset, I pointed out that we have a great concern with our citizens, and I'd like to say that this conference put a lot of emphasis in terms of the social services and human resources, in terms of education, on the condition of life of the ordinary citizens of this region. That was paramount. We're naturally concerned with the interests of the individual member states, and we're concerned with the health of the community. Now that changes are taking place in the US, changes are taking place in the UK, changes are taking place in EU, we are concerned that those changes should not negatively affect the quality of life of Caribbean citizens and, of course, the solidarity of the Caribbean community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I invite Ambassador Irwin Arok, the Secretary General of CARICOM, to make a few remarks.
Thank you, Leonard. Just a few words, because I think our heads have covered just about everything that we did. But I just want to express my satisfaction on a very intensive 2 days of discussion, very forward-looking discussion, if I may say so, and as our heads have indicated, I am satisfied that progress has been made in terms of the various areas mentioned, the CSME, a plan for implementing many of those standing issues, and that period will coincide with the region's strategic plan. The social sectors, I want to point out as well, a fair amount of attention is paid to competitiveness of our economies, tourism sector, moving forward, and significant renewable energy. You will have seen our head sign an agreement establishing the CARICOM Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, which clears the way for a significant amount of resources to be made available to facilitate and assist member states in developing their capacity for renewable energy and energy efficiency. And that is very, very important, because we are one of the higher cost centers for energy, and energy is a significant factor in production and in consumer bills. Tourism eats up a lot of energy and so on. I'm very pleased with that. And some of the mandates that the heads gave us in February, I'm happy that I was able to, our staff were able to deliver. We put ourselves to the wheel, and through our legal affairs committee, we were able to deliver to heads a number of instruments for their consideration. And the heads have given me a similar workload to deliver on a similar set of issues for February, and under the guidance of Prime Minister Mitchell, who's known for moving along just as was President Granger. The President Granger, lots was done. We will be able to deliver similarly when we get to Haiti in February. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. I always like you to ask your questions, but remember that when you are asking your questions, please state your name and the agency that you represent.
Peter Richard, CMC.
And please stand.
Sorry. Peter Richard, CMC. Good evening. Mr. Chairman, in your opening address on Tuesday night, Peter Richard, CMC. Barbados. Mr. Chairman, in your opening address on Tuesday night, you made mention of West Indies cricket. And I noticed here at the start of the press conference, you spoke about Venezuela and what have you. Did the leaders decide on any issue, on any matter regarding West Indies cricket, and where do we go from here?
This item was not on the agenda, so it did not come up in the discussion as yet, and therefore we have no conclusion on this.
But are there any plans, for example, to resuscitate or revamp the committee, the CARICOM committee?
Well, remember, we have a CARICOM subcommittee on cricket, and it's chaired by Prime Minister Gonzalez. Remember, I gave a chairmanship of that committee.
You're now chairman of CARICOM.
Yes, but Prime Minister Gonzalez will be the one responsible for convening. And he has indicated to me that he intended to do something about that.
My name is Andy Johnson. Excuse me, Andy Johnson. I write for the Trinidad Express, and I do work for a radio station called Power 102 FM, also in Trinidad. I want to ask you, President Granger, the first question. Quite apart from the situation in Venezuela, last year, when you were host of the summit, the issue about Guyana, Venezuela, territorial dispute was a big one, and you said that then that the UN had agreed to move those discussions out of the good offices framework, and your government has moved for a juridical settlement, but you said that you had suspended that for a year to see whether or not further discussions may have brought it any further. Can you tell us what has happened with that in light of what is happening in Venezuela? And also, your government has conferred on the Prime Minister of Barbados your country's highest award. And you said when you spoke at the Barbados 50th anniversary celebrations, that had to do in the main because of the position taken by the current Barbados Prime Minister in support of Guyana on its territorial dispute with Venezuela. Is that because other heads of government in the region have not been as forthcoming as the Prime Minister of Barbados on that issue? And what would you be expecting, or what would you and your government have been expecting from other heads on that issue, Guyana, Venezuela?
Thank you for the series of questions. First of all, in the process at the end of last year, the situation changed. United Nations Secretary General at that time, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, actually made a decision not to send the controversy directly towards the ICJ, but to recommend that an additional year be set aside, during which a final attempt will be made to close the differences between Caracas and Georgetown in relation to the controversy. And that was the instruction that he left his successor, Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and that is where we are at present. Mr. Guterres has appointed a personal representative, Mr. Doug Newlander, a Norwegian, who has been commuting between Caracas and Georgetown and attempting to build what we call confidence building measures, which have not necessarily been impaired by the situation in Venezuela. But the present situation is that unless there is an agreement between the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and Guyana, otherwise, that is to resolve the controversy, which has not been resolved for 51 years, it will be referred to the Secretary of the United Nations, who would then be required to take it to refer to the International Commission of Hearings. So as far as the controversy is concerned and the United Nations involvement, that is where it stands. Mr. Thunderstone, the Honorable Prime Minister of Barbados, has done a lot of work, and I would not restrict the accolade to, or the award of the accolade to one event. He has been an outstanding proponent of the, in fact, he's chair of the Caribbean Reparations Committee. And I would agree that in 2015, when I became president, the Venezuelan territorial controversy reached boiling point, because that was the time, on the very anniversary, the 50th anniversary of Guyana's independence, that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela chose to issue a very pugnacious decree claiming the waters not only of Guyana, the exclusive economic zone, but also affecting several other countries in the Eastern Caribbean. And I was deeply impressed with the stand that Prime Minister Thunderstone took. He was chairman of the conference at that time. And I am convinced personally that because of the stand he took, Venezuela was forced to withdraw the decree and issue a fresh decree. So I have no apologies, I have no regrets. It was an outstanding move. As far as my other colleagues are concerned, the Caribbean has, since the CARICOM has been established, the Caribbean has always stood behind Guyana. And we are very satisfied, not only the Caribbean, but also the Commonwealth and other countries along the world realize that the Venezuelan claim is completely absurd and spurious. And we've always been able to rely on the support of our colleagues. So there's no comparison. It is just at that point in time, when the Venezuelan controversy had reached boiling point, Mr. Thunderstone was the chairman, and he took a stand which was supported by his colleagues.
Allow me, Royal Titus GIS. I want to direct this question to the Secretary General, Ambassador Laura. The Prime Minister of Antigua left after the opening ceremony, but before talks actually began. Now, is this an unusual practice? And can you share with us the specific reasons that he gave for his departure?
I think you would need to ask the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda why he left the meeting. I think you would need to ask the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda why he left the meeting. He did not tell me why he left the meeting. He did not tell me he was leaving the meeting, so I can't respond to that.
Actually, I phrased the question asking you to share with us a reason if he provided you with a reason.
He did not provide me with a reason.
Follow-up question on that issue, sir?
Yes.
Every year, CARICOM sets aside 4 days in July for summit of Caribbean leaders, whether it's the 1st to the 4th or the 4th to the 6th. Caribbean leaders, we all know they're busy people and what have you, but this is a time when they discuss the issues surrounding problems in the Caribbean for Caribbean people. Why is it necessary, or what reasons could be so outstanding at home that our Caribbean leaders cannot sit together for 4 full days or 3 full days, but they must find an excuse to go home? Whether at this meeting, before the summit ends, is it, some people may interpret it as a lack of respect, or for Caribbean people whom they say they're discussing their issues? Anyone could answer.
Why run home?
I couldn't go anywhere, I'm home.
And it's important to note that Jamaica spent all 4 days. Sat right through all the meetings, participated fully.
Yes.
No, but it's a serious question, sir. I mean, in all due respect, I have covered CARICOM meetings before, and 15 Caribbean leaders, and not at any time at the end of any summit, we have 15 Caribbean leaders on the day going home after 3 days or 4 days of deliberations. Is that a snub for the Caribbean people? That's what I'm asking.
I don't want to repeat what the Secretary General said. that these questions you could direct to the Prime Minister who
I'm not directing at any particular Prime Minister, President Granger. I have said, President Granger, that over the CARICOM meetings over the years, Caribbean leaders, we all see them on the head table at the ceremonial opening, 15 Caribbean leaders plus associate leaders and what have you. We decide we must meet for 3 days. And I am aware this is a matter that has been brought up inside CARICOM by at least one Prime Minister who berated his colleagues by saying, we must clear our desk to at least meet for 4 days. What is so important that we cannot meet for 4 days straight? And I'm not talking about who this time around spent 4 days. It's a feature, if you want to put it so, of CARICOM Summit.
Well, just to be clear, this is my second heads meeting. And I have sat through all that I've attended. The sense I get from my colleagues is that they do take CARICOM very seriously. And bar none, they see the importance of CARICOM. Speaking on behalf of Jamaica, we see CARICOM as an important tool for foreign policy, for trade, and to address issues in common. And so we treat it with the level of seriousness that it deserves. And we make every effort to ensure that the various institutions of CARICOM work. So I wouldn't want it to be communicated to the people of the region that our leaders don't take CARICOM seriously. The members who were absent would probably have good reason, and as good journalists as you are, I'm certain you will ferret out those reasons.
Prime Minister Holness, let me start with you. I'll ask you two questions. No.
I did not volunteer.
Not at all. But I wanted to ask you what can you tell us about this survey that your government had launched about the feelings of people in Jamaica as to what they see as the benefits of CARICOM? And the statement on Venezuela, would you have wished it might have been stronger, if it could have been stronger? Was that the position that you came here seeking to advocate? And I would sit down after I put this question to you, Prime Minister Mitchell, on Tuesday night, just after the proceedings were on TV, on GBN News. You have a feature called Feedback, and the question was, what do people think about CARICOM? And all the responses said in effect that the people of Grenada, and I will continue to say Grenada, CARICOM and Pidimadnik, consider it's a waste of time, it's a talk shop, and it doesn't produce anything. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think I understood the sentiment of the people. And it's a fact. We have not been perfect at a level. As I articulated that in my presentation, that there were concerns in our region, whether it's accurately recorded as such or not. The fact is they're concerned, and we have to respond to the views of our people. And I was basically challenging us on some critical issues that I know that concerns the people of the region. On cricket, I know if you ask the average man, no matter what part of the Caribbean, you get one response about the state of management of our cricket. It's not about Keith Mitchell. It's far removed as a person from this. It is about what the man in the street is talking about. He's frustrated and so on. So I talk about that. The fact is everybody accepts that we have a problem with transportation. We talk CSME, single market and economy, beautiful words. We do a lot of work, excellent work. Some countries, even some of them do more than others. But the fact is we do a lot. But the reality is our people are not able to travel from one country to the next. And one of the major problems is the unavailability of transport, air and sea, and the cost, associated cost. So I challenge us about that particular problem. And similarly, it is well known that the situation in Venezuela, as a country close to a border, concerns almost everybody in this region. And if we could not avoid not dealing with it and offering ourselves as close friends of the people of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela to aid in solving and bringing parties together to solve this problem in Venezuela and offer as our friends. So we understand the sentiments of our people. I'm not surprised that the average man speaks like this in our country, and there are other issues. But I mentioned 3 issues, and they came from deep down inside, and I think it's something that concerns every single one of us. Yes.
Yeah, may I just add, whenever I hear that, and I do hear from time to time that persons say that CARICOM is a waste of time, to achieve what we have achieved, and is it because they take for granted some of the things that we are doing, and they're not aware that it's part of the community's work? Just only a couple of years ago, we had our region threatened. The threat has diminished significantly by chikungunya, as an example, by Zika. And there was one CARICOM institution set up for that purpose that was doing all of the laboratory testings for all 15 member states, plus the associate member states. That's one example. And the example I like to give is that all of our high school students see the CARICOM examination counselor exam at the end of their period in school. That is CARICOM. That was set up 43 years ago. We take it for granted, and we can go on and on. First responders after a disaster. When Guyana was hit a few years ago, the first responders who were here? The community. Not too long ago, Jamaica, Bahamas, Haiti. Who were the persons there? Who were the linesmen who went in to help to put up the lights and the poles? Yes, we have problems. We have lots of problems, and there are a lot of things we should be doing better and faster. But there are a lot of things that we're doing well, and perhaps we're not singing our own songs loud enough. And we have to communicate, and not just at the secretariat level. All of us, all our heads have to communicate. They have to. They have to tell their people what's going on. And let's not take it for granted. Can you imagine one day you wake up and there's no CARICOM? Just let's imagine that. And what's the state of play going to be in our community? That's what I ask.
Then allow me a quick.
1 second.
Well, firstly, I sympathize with the lament of the Secretary General about CARICOM. There is clearly greater need to educate our population about the role, function, and achievements of CARICOM, and the critical role CARICOM plays in the daily lives of our citizens. But having said that, there are issues that are of profound importance to citizens because of the slow or lack of functioning of the institutions. The CSME is one such institution that, as I said earlier, is the greatest expression of this integration process, this free trade space. Some people see this space as the free movement of goods, but not so much the free movement of labor. They see a space where there can be benefits in new markets for goods and services, but not a space where people can choose to live if they so desire. So more work needs to be done by leaders to ensure that we truly have an integrated single market where goods and services, people and capital can move freely. That is the intention that has been stated, but there is a certain level of frustration because these stated intentions have not been achieved. We've been talking about this now for almost 10 years without full implementation. That leads to a certain frustration. And speaking on behalf of Jamaica, the concerns have been raised if our citizens can't move, but your products can come in freely, then what is the benefit? So it is not merely a frustration about cricket or about an ephemeral organization. it's not that we think CARICOM is not important. We think it is so important that we would want it to function as it was envisioned to function. And which is why, instead of taking an isolationist approach, we have taken a strategic approach, which is to test exactly what is it that people feel, what is it that they have as their views and suggestions. So we have, in Jamaica, commissioned a review of CARICOM. And that review is complete. It has been submitted to the Cabinet of Jamaica. We are now in the process of reviewing it. Very shortly, we will release it to the Parliament, for the Parliament to pronounce on it. And at the same time, we will make it available to the other heads in CARICOM.
But you must have seen the executive summary.
I have seen it, and that's where to remain. At the appropriate time, we will release the study. But I go back to a statement I made earlier, before this meeting. We believe that a strong Jamaica makes a strong CARICOM. And so we will take actions that are in the interest of Jamaica, yes, but those actions are also in the interest of strengthening CARICOM. I think that should be the sense that people should get from Jamaica's actions. As it relates to Venezuela, as I said, CARICOM is a powerful tool of foreign policy. And it has to be a credible institution. It has to contribute to ensuring that the Caribbean remains a region of peace. It's very important, not just for the peace of mind of citizens who live in the region, but tourism, which is an important product for us, is enhanced when we can market that this is a region of peace. So we have an interest in ensuring that all the countries in this region have peace and prosperity for their citizens. We want to see a region that is growing, that is flourishing, and where issues can be resolved utilizing well-developed and well-understood mechanisms that promote democracy, rule of law, respect for human rights, and I believe that the statement that has been issued by CARICOM is a statement that is a unified one. All the members agreed. It defines the boundaries as to how far CARICOM would want to be involved in any such issue, which is to, as we have said, offer ourselves in a genuine way to bringing a resolution to the issue in Venezuela. We want to see a resolution. We want to see peace and prosperity for the people of the Bolivarian Republic.
Two more questions.
Let me just add one short statement on the question that was asked. I think it was asked to Andrew whether in fact the CARICOM statement was strong enough.
Yeah.
The question I ask is, how much stronger could we have been? We spoke to the question of the key issues in the preamble about non-interference in the affairs of states. That's a fundamental international principle. We spoke to a fundamental basis of existence of principles of democracy and law and order and so on. We spoke to all that. And we offered the good offices of our CARICOM community to bring the parties together to a resolution to solve the problem peacefully. What stronger can we be?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to ensure that it wasn't a position in which he felt that he had to compromise some, because he came here saying when he was leaving Kingston that he was coming to raise that issue and have it dealt with. And we know that other countries, other leaders, including my own Prime Minister, my interpretation of the position of Trinidad and Tobago was hands-off. And that is how they interpreted non-intervention. So.
Well, I can tell you one of the strongest voices for speaking on this issue was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
But let's be clear, not to prolong the issue. All of our countries are democracies, and we have long histories in this. So from a principle point of view, any statement would have to reflect our principle. We have had long and fruitful relationships with Venezuela, people of Venezuela. And so we must express our wish for peace and prosperity there. There are well-established procedures and ways in which these matters can be resolved. And so we must express our support for those avenues to be used. And as friends of Venezuela, we must make our good offices available to bring resolution. And I think that is as far as CARICOM could go.
Janelle Prasad, NC and Guyana. Have there been renewed commitments from heads on removing the restrictions to the free movement of goods and skills? Because Prime Minister Mitchell, when you spoke, you talked about your own award-winning honey not being able to move to certain countries, and Jamaica and Guyana have had issues with movement of people as well. So, are there renewed commitments as it relates to removing these restrictions? And also, the NCDs continue to be a problem 10 years on. Is there a new strategy to dealing with this? I mean, in terms of encouraging lifestyle change, yes, but 10 years on, people are still doing the same things. What are we going to do now?
Well,
in any system, there's always going to be some challenges in terms of restrictions, as that would be. We had extensive discussions on the issue of honey, and I believe while the way is not open yet, that we have set a path for us to make progress on that area. Going forward, there are certain commitments made, and we have to see them going forward. And let's see what happens in the time at hand. We did not specifically discuss the issue of movement of skills at this meeting. We know that there have been challenges from time to time, and we are also aware that there have been efforts at dealing with them, whether through the community or bilaterally. But I want to point out, that the community has a certain set of rules and systems that we put in place. When we were revising the treaty, we realized this current treaty, the previous treaty into the current treaty, we realized that the system that was there did not allow for redress. There is a system for redress, and Shannon Myrie has proven it. TCL, Trinidad Cement Limited, has proven it. And a number of other actors in the region that have chosen to utilize what is available to them have proven it, that the system that we've put in place works. It doesn't mean that I'm at all advocating for litigation. But you try all efforts to resolve issues with offices, and we've seen some of them work. I think I want to commend the progress made, for instance, in the bilateral discussions between Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica. As I understand it, that there has been progress made in terms of massively travel, and there's a constant dialogue going on. And we just have to keep at it. That's what I want to say to you, that there will always be challenges. It's honey today, maybe it's dumpling tomorrow, and eggs the following day. But how much of our trade goes freely, and how much of our people move freely? Of course, any one bad experience is not acceptable. I'm not saying that it is. But sometimes I think we have so much on the negative that we forget the positive. But I think we have to keep plowing it when we have those challenges, and we have set ourselves a course of action. And let us see what happens in the coming weeks with regards to the money. That's what I'll say.
Who's taking the money?
Final question.
Yeah, final, yeah.
NCDs.
Oh.
You know, as I said, I think I said in my opening statement that we all have a responsibility. Yes, we can put our rules and regulations, we can put our tobacco labeling, we can talk about, we can impose taxes on sweet and salt and the like. But every one of us has a responsibility for our lives as well. We do. We are the ones who feed ourselves. We are the ones who consume saturated fats. And we are the ones who are contributing to our own health. Yes, the state will do what it has to do to regulate, to encourage, and public education is a must. We indicated that there must be more public education. We accepted that. We dealt with this matter under the NCD issue, and we looked at tobacco, for instance. Tobacco is a low-hanging fruit in terms of seeking to address that. And as Prime Minister Holness mentioned, we're going to be treating, you know, it is interesting that Prime Minister Minnis, who's also a physician, was saying that the issue of the issue raised by Minister crime and violence, when in the medical profession, that is also treated as part of that whole symptom of our society. Because you over-consume alcohol, you tend to get violent, for instance. And then you have car accidents that make people become impaired and whatnot. So it's a holistic approach. We did the NCDs at the sitting, and the sitting in February at the request of the Prime Minister was unanimously agreed to. We're going to take the discussion forward to cover the wider area. But I just want to say that we all have a responsibility. The state cannot do it alone. That we all have a responsibility, starting with our homes, what we feed our children, and what we ingest.
1 second, Prime Minister.
On the matter of the NCDs, I believe some very good recommendations were made, and all the heads agreed that they would put their best efforts to have them, particularly as it relates to smoking and tobacco use, the consumption of sugar and salt, and exercise and leading a generally healthy lifestyle. Certainly in Jamaica, we have adopted a program called Jamaica Move, which is encouraging people to exercise at least 30 minutes a day. And it has been having an effect, and we encourage all countries and all people to take this very seriously. As it relates to crime and violence actually has the same epidemiological profile as the other diseases. In Jamaica, violent loss of life would be approximately the 5th leading cause of death. And I'm certain if you did a similar epidemiological profile of other countries, you would see the same thing. As well as, for example, motor vehicle accidents. So anything that is going to cause loss of life, I think governments ought to pay special attention to it. And so in Jamaica, we're moving to treat violence, especially violence leading to loss of life, in this way, which would involve a public relations campaign, which will increase public awareness, which would seek to have laws, regulations developed to control the use of violence, whether it is domestic violence or violence in dispute resolution. But certainly within our societies, the use of violence is a leading cause of death and ought to be addressed in this way.
Final question. Final question.
Jovan Johnson from the Jamaica Gleaner. Chairman Mitchell, to you, since you read the communique, what was the outcome of the discussions on reparation and ganja? And the second question is, when are we going to see corruption on the agenda for a CARICOM summit? And I'm taking this after the Bahamian Prime Minister and his statements at the opening ceremony. And the Prime Minister Holness, can you confirm if it is Jamaica that will be hosting the next heads of government next July?
I think we, as we come in there, we have discussed the whole question of reparation and recommitted ourselves. We got an update report from Barbados and the presentation by the chairman of the commission on reparation, that is Hillary Beckles. So we noted the update information on all that has taken place so far, and committed and recommitted ourselves. In fact, a point was made that some of our countries have not paid up their fair share of meeting the fundamental responsibility to this, and we recommitted ourselves to do precisely this. So there has been a commitment, and there's a genuine perception, even those of us that had doubts about the success of it, are feeling more and more that that was an essential initiative, and that we've come a long way, and we will in fact feel that we will reach some serious conclusion. There was not a lot said on ganja, I must tell you this. So I don't know if Prime Minister will.
You know, Jamaica.
Not a very good expert on ganja, so
Jamaica, you know.
Put my friend at the spot.
As you know, Jamaica has passed legislation, and we are very advanced in developing the institutional framework to develop an industry in marijuana, and that is pretty much advanced. So we also in parallel have to develop a mechanism that manages not just tobacco smoke, but marijuana smoke. And I believe we have the legislation in place that parallels both marijuana smoking and tobacco smoking. I will confirm that we will be hosting Secretary General, that is the case. Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed, Prime Minister. 18 February?
18 February in Jamaica in July. So we look forward to having all of you in Jamaica. And in that regard,
all the leaders as well.
But in November, seeing that I'm now taking this opportunity to promote Jamaica, the UNWTO will be hosting a major conference on sustainable development in tourism. And this will be in November in Montego Bay on the 27th to 29th. And again, you're all invited.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Prime Minister of Jamaica. Thank you, the President of Guyana in particular, who has a problem to catch his flight now. Secretary General and the Foreign Minister of Haiti.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you man, for everything, man. Thank you for everything, man. You follow back the thing from you, man. Yeah, Derek Sylvester. I'll see you at home. Okay, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Travel well, sir.